Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another solo show of the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about a topic that I have gotten a lot of questions on, whether it be in our CPC mentorship program, just other IHPs reaching out. And I've also seen a few mentions of it recently in the IHP Facebook groups. And this topic, I think, is incredibly important, especially as you're starting out a practice, but also as your practice starts to grow and you start to see a higher volume of clientele. And this topic is essentially helping identify mental roadblocks for clients wanting to get success, right? They're maybe doing the meetings. They're maybe even buying the protocols, but their follow through isn't there, or their the expected outcomes aren't there, right? They're using the supplement that you think would help, but for whatever reason, it's not. Or they've bought the protocol and they're just waiting for the perfect time to start. They've bought the labs, but they haven't taken them yet, right? These clients where they say they want to see the difference, they want to do the work, they want to make the changes, but there's something missing. There's a link that's preventing the outcome that we know they're capable of if they do the steps, right? But it's just not happening, and why that might be. So I'm going to share with you today all of the common roadblocks that I've seen and that I believe to kind of be true. I'm going to do another podcast on how you can then work with that, right? But it would be too much to do all at once. So these are going to be basically the most common mental roadblocks that I've seen, and how you can help a client get unstuck from these will be another show that I do after. So let's get started. The first roadblock that I commonly see is that all or nothing mindset. Okay. These are maybe perfectionist clients. Those can kind of work in the other direction, right? They do everything perfectly. They actually do every single thing, execute every single step you want them to do, but maybe the stress is keeping them from getting well, right? This all or nothing mindset can be, well, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. Right? This is the client that is waiting for the perfect time to start the protocol. Let me wait until my kids don't have sports, or we don't have any travel, or it's not a holiday, right? They just keep waiting for the perfect time. It's never coming, right? And we know that. And again, helping these clients get unstuck from this mindset will be the next show. And I'll kind of go through each of these points again and how you can support a client who might be in this state of mind. But again, this is the all or nothing thinking. It keeps them from taking the next best step, even if it's not a perfect step, right? I always say never let perfection be the enemy of progress, because so many people, it can be. They're thinking about wanting it to be perfect, and that paralyzes them from just taking messy action. We've talked about this, with businesses, launching business, right? From a health coaching standpoint, our clients can have the same feeling when it comes to their health journey, that if they're not doing it perfectly, there's no way they're going to actually see progress. And that's not true. Okay. Another mental roadblock is fear of failure. Fear of failure, or even fear of success. So self-sabotage as kind of this form of protection. Now, fear of failure, that one's kind of easy, right? If I try, it leaves me more vulnerable to potential failure, right? So the fear of failure, if you don't try at all, well, now you can't fail. If you don't try, you can't be met with the setbacks that maybe come with trying, right? But for some people too, the fear of success is kind of just as relevant. These are the people that really never feel like they've ever been able to do it. And what would it mean if all of a sudden they didn't have that attachment to failing, right? Because a lot of people can be attached to that. I've tried everything. I've never been able to lose this 25 pounds. I've tried everything. And if they were to succeed this time with you, they would have to let go of that identity. And for some people, that is that subconsciously can be a huge risk because it's a big part of who they are. If they're 48 and they've been dieting and trying to lose 25 pounds since they were 18, it's 38 years, right? Excuse me, bad math. It's 30 years. 30 years of being the woman or the man who just can't lose the weight. They've identified as that to themselves. Maybe they've identified to that as others. And so there's fear of failure, yes, which is a little bit more common, but then there's fear of success. And what does it mean if I actually were to succeed? What would I have to let go of? Who would I have to become? And so for some people, the unknown of what that would bring is just as fearful, right? And again, there's so many ways that we can help a client tap into these, but that is a pretty prevalent one. So again, fear of failure, but also fear of success. Limiting beliefs. Okay, this is obviously a big one. And IHP Mastery really does a beautiful job at helping any coach move through things and challenges like this that we'll see with clients, right? That is the beauty of mastery. But limiting beliefs, right? I'm just not a healthy person, or I've always been overweight. And this kind of ties back to what I was just talking about. But when you've always maybe been your client has 4 sisters, right? And she's the only sister that's been overweight her whole life. Or maybe it's a male client and he's always been, underweight and he's looking to put on weight. Our identity, again, can come with so many limiting beliefs that we kind of put ourselves in this box. And that mindset can be so strong. Again, the older your client, the longer a limiting belief may have been, shaped, may have taken form, may have gotten a real tight grip on them. And limiting beliefs can be really challenging to pull somebody out of. But the first step is truly you identifying that there might be some limiting beliefs, right? That's the first step. And then the second step is that you need to maybe illuminate to the client that, hey, I think there's some limiting beliefs here. And this is how we can help to shift your mindset so that your physiology responds to what these protocols are meant to do, right? Because the body's only going to achieve what the mind believes. We know that. We know that on so many levels. The mind is a powerful, powerful tool, right? So being able to first identify, does this client have some significant limiting beliefs? And then we can talk about what needs to shift, right? Sometimes it really is being honest and building that like, know, and trust first with the client, right? So that you can get a trusting relationship to be able to talk to them about this, right? It might be that it's hard for clients to open up about these things. And my last my last one is going to kind of like tie into why sometimes paying attention to all of the mindset stuff is really hard. I'll tie it kind of all back together. So limiting beliefs. There's a lot of the next one, emotional eating triggers. So emotional type of relationships, emotional triggers to certain behaviors, right? Whether it's emotional eating, whether it is drinking, whether it's, over exercising. I mean, again, we're not just talking about doing too much of the bad stuff. Sometimes this can be they're way overdoing it on the things that they think are quote unquote good, right? Are they exercising 2 hours a day in the name of, quote unquote health? Is that serving their nervous system? Is that helping their gut? Is that destroying their hormones, right? So emotional triggers and ties to certain behaviors can be significant roadblocks. One of the hardest things I can have to convince a usually female client to do is pull back on their exercise, right? Have they been conditioned to think that the more they do, the more they're worth? The more they do, the better the results will be. The harder it is, the better the outcome, or the harder it is, the better they are for putting in that hard work, right? It really can be so many intertwined beliefs and emotions. But again, being able to look at a client's behavior, their patterns, the way they speak about themselves, the way they speak about their setbacks or their frustrations, it's really an art for you to be able to tap into, okay, what is limiting this client? Without first telling them, right? If you can identify, okay, there is definitely some, stress eating here, or this client is bored or they're lonely. And that's when they kind of tend to, maybe the client says, gee, it's like every Saturday night I'm trying to unwind from work. And that's when, I have really little self-control. I want to, eat a pizza and just relax. And again, maybe it's beliefs around what is relaxing, what is a reward, right? It's not always that there is some major thing going on. It can be subtle behaviors and habits that have been sewn in over time and reinforced, right? But these emotional eating triggers, but also behavior triggers, again, things like alcohol, even caffeine, right? Like caffeine can be one of those like, okay, I'm tired. I don't deserve rest. So I'm going to drink more caffeine at 2 p.m. to try to get through the rest of my day, instead of saying like, okay, I'm tired. Maybe my body needs a break. Maybe I need to take 5 deep breaths and go for a 5-minute walk and then get back to it, right? We're adults. We can't just say, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to go take a 3-hour nap. No. But maybe caffeine isn't the answer in that moment. Maybe the caffeine's now going to interrupt your client's sleep and they're going to sleep really poorly. And now the cycle is going to begin again where they're really tired and unable to focus and do the tasks that they're meant to do, right? That can build in a lot of frustration. So being able to give clients permission, right? And we're going to talk a lot about this in the next episode, to really lean into what it means to actually like feel what's going on. So many of us just go through the motions and do the behavior that feels the most comforting. Yeah, I guess comforting is the right word. The most comforting, but the most familiar in that moment, right? Whenever I'm tired, I drink a cup of coffee. And to pause in between the feeling and the behavior is where the beauty is. And being able to guide your client to, I think it seems like your biggest roadblock comes when you feel bored or lonely. Does that resonate with you? And if it doesn't, okay, maybe leave it and let them think about it. Like, no, actually, that doesn't sound familiar at all. You could say, oh, okay, I was just making an observation, but I could be completely wrong. Let them take it and sit with it. And maybe when you meet next, they have a different response, right? Because they've had a chance to think about it. Okay. Next one is low self-worth. I think this is probably, goes without saying, but low self-worth, the belief that they don't deserve to either feel good, to be healthy, to lose weight, to get the thing that they want, right? A lot of clients can come to us and they want to lose 20 pounds. They want to have less bloating. They want to have more energy. They want to have more patience with their kids. They want to sleep better. They want these things. Do they have the belief that they're truly worthy of these things? Or do they have low self-worth? And perhaps that's why these things have been held back from them for a long time, right? What is the belief around what they deserve and what they truly feel like is available to them, right? Because this belief can be, again, a long time in building it, right? It can be a childhood belief that I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, right? Maybe they had a parent who didn't give them a ton of TLC, right? When they were asking for things that they needed. So they believed that in order to be loved or in order to be good enough, they needed to have to want less, right? And so sometimes we can get the message that if we shrink, we're lovable, right? And so does your client truly believe that they are worth the things that they are after, the things that they're coming to you, asking you to help them with? Do they believe they are worthy of these things? Do they believe that they are worthy of the life that they could live if they were to achieve these things, right? Because maybe they're like, yes, of course I'm worthy to lose 15 pounds. Okay, good, check. Do they believe that they are worthy of love, right? Now, this is kind of going a little bit deeper, right? But maybe if they don't have a partner, maybe losing 15 pounds would make them feel more attractive, or they would want to get out in the dating scene. They would feel more confident. Maybe the roadblock is that they don't truly feel worthy of love from someone else. Maybe they're able to love themselves enough to lose 15 pounds, but maybe the roadblock is, but if I felt better, then I would seek love. And that feels scary. That feels like I'm not worth that, right? So there can be branches to this where, okay, this one checks out, but now, what could be underneath that? So a lot of times, does a mom who wants to have more patience and more energy. Okay, so that means that now she's going to show up, or if she has more energy and she has, some sort of more patience, now that means that she would have to tolerate play. She would be maybe the more playful mom instead of the more rigid, controlling mom. Well, what's her relationship with play? What is her relationship with feeling soft and not being constantly so rigid and in control, right? There's a lot that kind of goes into each of these, and how there can be really, again, that self-worth of, do I feel worthy of the life that these changes would hand me, and then I would be invited to live. Because sometimes that is where the worth, right, is tied deeper. And if you are able to, again, identify some of these emotions, simply shifting these mindsets for clients can be so powerful for their nervous system that, yes, protocols will still need to be done and supplements can still be so beneficial, but sometimes just moving their nervous system out of a place where they feel so deeply attached to low self-worth or limiting beliefs can be physiologically so beneficial for their actual physical health, right? You've moved them out of basically a trauma response to a place where they just feel safer and more able to be themselves. And sometimes that is the best physical, right, move that you can make. Now the supplements can do better work. Now their gut is more responsive to something like a protocol, right, that's meant to rebalance their gut microbiome. So again, the mindset shift and helping clients, for you first to be able to identify where the roadblocks may be, and then in a way that feels really safe, really in a held kind of gentle way, illuminating to clients where things may be kind of short-circuited, right? If they're not getting the kind of results that they want. Okay, and then this is my last, and I think that this is getting much more prominent with the presence of social media. And it's, are they looking for one more distraction, or do they truly want change? In a world where we have information at our fingertips, courses at our fingertips, right? Self-help books at our fingertips, experts for this, experts for that. When is it less about knowing, learning, constantly looking to someone to help, and not just taking action, right? At a certain point, you have to say, okay, I've gathered enough data, enough with trying to distract myself with thinking, okay, this was a huge hurdle that I overcame, especially with my TMJ journey, even with some of, my relationship stuff, my parenting. When have I done enough work on myself? When have I done enough? And this is a client that maybe has come to you and like done all the other things that we just talked about, right? And this client actually might not need, okay, let's talk about the, all of your emotional triggers, or let's talk about, they need action. They need less distraction, less talking, less hand holding, and someone to say, you've got it. You got enough. You have to take action now. The only way something changes is if you take radical responsibility and you take action. And maybe they haven't got that tough love piece yet, right? These, again, are clients that are familiar with all the other things that we've talked about. And you know that they've maybe worked with somebody with somatic practices, and they have a therapist, and they're doing all the nervous system work, and they've worked with someone for deep breathing, right? Okay, they've gathered a lot of data. Why has nothing changed? Are they taking radical responsibility and action rather than just distracting themselves with all of these practices that seem to be them doing the work, right? Because we can kind of let ourselves off the hook a little bit, or think that, okay, we are trying really hard. We are doing all of the things. Stuff should just be getting better. But maybe we're not taking the real action. And by saying real action, I mean changing the way we show up. Yes, deep breathing is super important, right? Meditation is super important. But at a conscious level, are we showing up differently? Are we making a conscious choice? The only time things change is when we choose to do something different. So yes, we can deep breathe, but after we do deep breaths, right? And we feel like our nervous system is a little bit regulated, do we now go, check, I did it. Well, nothing's changed. Well, okay, I guess I'll have to move on to something else. Or do we make the choice to step into a room different, to walk down the stairs in our own home different, to show up to a work meeting different, right? It has to be that we let the distraction move out of the way and we step forward with action. And for some clients who have been, quote unquote, doing the work forever, this may be the approach that actually they need the most. Okay, so I just gave you, I believe it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the most common mental barriers that I see, right? And kind of how these need to be identified to help unstick someone from not getting the results that they want. My next show is going to go back and kind of talk about how you really can tap into each of these for a client and help them move the needle on this way of thinking, right? Whether it's fear of failure or limiting beliefs, or again, the distraction of I'm doing all the things now, how come it's not working? And I think it can be really beneficial because you have all the knowledge. You know the supplements, you know the protocols, you know the next steps. But for some clients, it will be a challenge for them to see the plan through and for them to get results. And I think all of these sabotaging type of belief systems are really what's at the root of it. And I think your practice and your work can feel so much more fulfilling if you get comfortable with not only identifying some of these, but talking openly with your clients about them when appropriate. Okay, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. Hope you found the show helpful. Can't wait to do the next show and talk a little bit more.